23rd of August, the Media Ukraine Center is working today, and I welcome everybody on the National Day of National Flag. We are thankful to the military of Ukraine for defending our country, statehood, and independence, for the fact that we are able to hold such events as today. We are now talking about the research of the Ukrainian consumer sentiment toward the National Cashback Program. The program will be launched since the September the 2nd. It was preceded by the research on how Ukrainians treat the made-in-Ukraine goods. We are talking about Nadiya, Bihun, who is Deputy Minister for Economy of Ukraine. Yevheniia Blyzniuk is sociologist, founder and director of Gradus Research. Welcome, ladies. Yevheniia, may I ask you about the major takeaways of your research? What are the insights that you have received? Welcome, everybody. Colleagues, I echo the greetings on the day of the national flag of Ukraine and on the upcoming Day of Independence. Great celebration days for us today and tomorrow. This is a very important trend to analyze how Ukrainians feel about the Ukraine-made goods. Now, in advance, I would like to say that the full-scale invasion has tipped the way the Ukrainians treat the goods that are made in Ukraine, and accordingly, the sentiment to the Ukrainian producers. Now I know how to operate that thing. The research was conducted at the beginning of the year. Since the April of this year, we talked to 1,000 respondents throughout Ukraine, minus the temporarily occupied territories and the hostility areas. And in particular, this research was done on the 8th and 9th of April. What we see is that 85% of the Ukrainians feel positively about the goods produced in Ukraine, and virtually 48% prioritize the domestically produced goods. But as for the categories of goods, there are some differences, and I will talk about that later. The approximate share of consumers both buy either imported or locally produced. The share of the Ukrainian goods reaches almost 60% in absolute responses, more than 40%, or sometimes the figure reaches 80%. What are particular goods that people prefer? In the first place, this is the category of medicines and hygiene produce, the clothes and other things which we know from other research is growing in popularity. What are the goods that we buy, the imported things? These are vehicles, perfumes, and high-tech goods, something that Ukraine has not yet been producing on a massive scale. Why do people prefer to buy the Ukrainian-made goods? There are three reasons. One, the sentiment is very positive towards supporting Ukraine. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, we saw that this was priority number one since April of 2022, when we first gauged the consumer sentiment. The other reason is a related thing to support the domestic producer. And the third point is that the value for money thing, because we are all in a crisis. The price for goods is very important for us, and it's gaining momentum. This is where the Ukrainian producers can be very much competitive. The reason for people to buy important goods are high quality. We should be aware about the categories of the goods: perfumes, cosmetics, and vehicles. Of course, we understand that high quality means that these goods are accessible, and of course, automobiles matter a lot in this area. Why is it that sometimes people shun away from the locally produced goods? The first thing is quality issue, and the second point is the thing that we call custom. We have grown accustomed to buying things that we did before the war, and now we are continuing that trade. Prices are different, accessibility is different, but the strength of custom is very important, especially for some categories of people. What people bought before the war, they keep buying now. Awarenesses for the month of April. The program made in Ukraine, it enjoyed 40% popularity, and the level of awareness was very low. I think it's higher now. However, of those who knew about the program, north of 90% supported the program as relevant and a positive one. The amount of the cashback that people preferred, and they had three choices to choose from 1 to 3%, from 4 to 7, and from 8 to 10%. It's natural that people should have selected the highest cashback. It is quite an understandable thing to have some advantage. The goods that have been selected for the cashback, of course, reflect the category that people tend to buy. These are consumer goods of hygienes and clothes, including other things. The planning for purchasing Ukrainian-made goods. The question was, how does this program stimulate and incentivize to buy Ukrainian goods? What we see is that the higher cashback is, the more stimulus works. At the same time, the cashback of 7 to 9% or 10% it's an equal motivation. We are aware that, of course, you can have some space for maneuver. The frequency that people would like to see the cashback coming to their accounts or in their purse is a monthly period. Now, during this time of war, the planning forecast has been kind of shrunk. Before the war, we could have planned for 6 months, for a year in advance. Now the planning horizon is a week or month as maximum. Now we are living what we call sped up time. The cashback, of course, will incentivize people to buy Ukrainian goods better and more. What people would like to spend their money on, these are the payment for the facilities, and this is an important thing. We all understand why it matters. Another issue is the Ukrainian-produced things. These money will be available to the Ukrainian segment of the economy and medical services. The volume of cash back that people are ready to spend. When we look at the category of 9 to 10% cash back, what we see is that communal facility payment and military bonds, people are ready to pay for these. They are ready to spend about 10% of the cash back. As for the categories of consumers, People, first of all, focus on the local producers plus cashback. This is a most motivated purchase, a combination to boost people to buy. We see at the priority is the clothes and household utilities. Thank you very much. But I don't think this is the only research that Gradus has conducted in terms of sentiment of the consumers. What is the dynamics that you see in Ukrainian sentiment towards Ukrainian produce? What I can say is that we are seeing a major support for the Ukrainian producers and for the Ukrainian goods. As for the way, by the way, it is relevant to the popularity of the Ukrainian language. Both trends go up and there is no fluctuations here. We have conducted research on this to see what the priorities of the people are. And my point is that in Europe in general, this trend is visible everywhere. Italians prioritize the Italian-made goods. They're proud of them. They're very popular. Of course, French do the same. The leaders in this economic centrism are the British. About 90% of the respondents reply that, of course, we are buying the British goods. What else is there? Against this background, Ukraine has been for a long time an ex-former Soviet country because this loyalty towards national producer fluctuates at a quite low level. The countries that I have mentioned go higher than 90%. Last year, we reached 68%, which is a fantastic result, a breakthrough, the way I see it. People know Ukrainian brands. When we openly ask them, what Ukrainian brands do you like? The questions that we receive are quite numerous. They enlist the Ukrainian brands, the so-called well-known brands, and people know that these companies communicate with the consumers. We see the fantastic growth in this area. Ms. Deputy Minister, may I turn to you? This program will be launched since Monday, as I have mentioned, but a lot of work has been done on that. Prior to launching this program, where did the idea spring from? Was there a demand from the public? Because many Ukrainians have grown accustomed to receiving cashbacks from different networks and shops. Were you trying to scale it up to the national level? Welcome. I would like to join you in appreciating the effort of the Ukrainian military for the fact that we are sitting here in a comfortable place enjoying this conversation. This is what matters most. I believe that Yevheniia has made a very good point. Ukraine is very vogue, both within and beyond the country. This trend should be getting track. There is a trend that we see. We all wear the T-shirts with an inscription, "I'm Ukrainian," so on. But the question is whether this trend has been a customary thing that has been embedded in our sentiments. Together with Gradus, we wanted to single out whether the economic bonus the country received from this program. This is a social program in the first place. It targets to help the Ukrainians on some conditions. We were not the first ones here. In realizing and implementing socially oriented programs, there must be an economic component. Every country assists their population, especially most vulnerable, straighter people who need some backing up from the country. But the majority of the countries, and we have analyzed the United States expertise, these programs include economic component. This is not that you are supported by the state. You are supported in a way that this country goes to boost the Ukrainian economy. So the economic component is a must-have in this program. Since we don't have a sustainable economic policy that we are now building up, we are thinking about different programs. For example, programs that we have allocated 26 billion for the reconstruction of Ukraine. Where does the money go? You can buy the building materials coming from other countries that enjoy a better economic situation. They don't have hostilities, don't have war or blackouts. They don't have questions on the labor market. They can press their point on the issue of pricing. Of course, they can take share of this program and take advantage of this budget for their local economy to grow. So the cashback program is an effort to support the population with an economic component. I'm sure after we have seen the successful launching of this program, there will be others program coming with the economic component as part of that effort. They will work for the Ukrainian economy and buttress its economic growth. This is why we think about winterization. We want people to have the possibility to go through the winter conditions as comfortably as possible. We want people to prepare for the winterization program. This is one side of the coin. We also think about the reconstruction of economy. People have to pay for their bills, and this will make sure that our country grows. And since you pay for the public utilities, you will also help the Ukrainian producers. Now we have a very sustainable energy supply, but we thought differently a month ago because we wanted people to buy alternative devices of energy. Now you have to have some money in the economy running. So, of course, this is a very timely matter. According to the estimations of your Ministry for Economy, speaking long time, how do you think this program will work for the boosting of the Ukrainian economy? We made a model on the impact of this program. And we founded this research on the demand-supply dynamics, and by boosting the demand, supply will also grow. This is the way we believe. Of course, it will not come overnight. As demand grows and consumers will switch over to the locally produced produce, the sellers also matter. The supply suggested and offered by the seller will also condition our options. The more Ukrainian-made goods you have available, the more the customers will be able to buy them in the local networks. The local producers, of course, find it difficult to be part of the large-scale networks. There are standards and sustainability, so we believe this program will jumpstart the growth of the smaller size producers. This will be an open window for them. The selling networks will understand that Ukrainians opt for the Ukrainian produce, and so they will offer the choice of the local made goods. This will also stimulate and incentivize the local producers. The impact that we count on and that our model shows is that first year we'll see the investment will be repaid due to the volume of investments, and next year we'll see the economy grow and the behavior of consumer will also change, but this trend will work for the medium and longer term perspective. People will love the Ukrainian goods, and after they have found some goods that are not part of the program, the trend will be there. Let us listen to the questions from the floor. If journalists have questions, you are more than welcome to ask them. Ruslan Kislak, Ukraine. I have a couple of questions to Nadiya, Deputy Minister. Now, 9 out of 10 respondents are ready to take advantage of the program. What is your estimation? How this trend will change after the program has been launched? If, and this is the second question, those people who will be willing to join, how ready is the program? Is the program ready to work with the growing number of willing people, banks and other things? And as far as I understand, the budget for this year has seen 3 billion hryvnias for this program. If the willing people will be higher than you have expected, does the money coming from state coffer will be allocated for that? Now, my next question, let us answer all these questions that you have asked. Now, let me continue. Some economists believe that this program, independent whether you focus on it as a boosting smaller or medium-sized enterprises, it will, at the end of the day, be a boost for the major producers, because private and smaller size enterprises are not enveloped by this program. How do you think? Does it ring a bell with you? Now, you and I understand that this is a state-run marketing. We are creating a program of loyalty. We want people to buy the Ukrainian goods. It is marketing. 9 out of 10 people are ready to take advantage of the program and proposal because marketing works. We believe that the majority of the population will join. And thanks to the cashback program, you will have to participate through your bank with your bank card. The producers will join through the Nadiya portal with the QR codes, and your paying systems will be part and parcel of the general economics. In a couple of days, the form will be available for the sellers, and since the 2nd of September, the cards, or the bank cards, will also start functioning. Of course, we will not meet the demand of all the people who are interested, and you will see a gradual addition of the participants, meaning that there will be a starting point. It will be quite a quick start, but it will not be functioning overnight. There will be people searching for the Ukrainian producers, and this is what we are driving at. Indeed, 3 billion hryvnias were allocated through the state coffers. This is the program that we are now implementing to boost the demand for the Ukrainian-made goods. Our calculations say that such a money is enough. But this is the first expertise that we have had. Technologically, it is a complex program. We've been working on this a lot. There are a lot of participants, banks and sellers and different networks. So the program will be adapted to the demands, we see that 3 billion hryvnias is just enough. This is a relative figure for the program. As for the question whether we will be able to serve millions of transactions, of course, we are thinking about this when the program was being developed. The Nadiya application, of course, can deal with this. Different electronic services through Nadiya. Either this is the rebuilding program or reconstruction program. This is the logic that we are following, because former products with virtual accounts, there were some rules for them. They were functioning, and this is what we based our efforts on. Our partners include banks, major banks, of course, and these banks will start their activities on the 2nd of September. Accordingly, we will see a lot of information on the amount of transactions, what kind of equipment and facility we have to have. We are ready for the millions of transactions on a daily basis that will have to be processed. And the last question was, as I have warned you, we will not be able to remember all your questions. The potential boost. The program officially states that you are targeting smaller and medium-sized enterprises, but there are some misgivings that indeed you are helping major networks. Thank you for your question. For the producer, there is no demand that they have to be partially the official taxpayer. You can be a private entrepreneur. The major demand is that the producer has their equipment here in Ukraine, that the produce is made in Ukraine. As for the sellers, they have to be on the general taxation system, not to avoid a legally prescribed taxation. Unfortunately, in the organized selling, we see a lot of shadow businesses where a lot of people avoid and evade taxation. One of the targets of this program is to bring people out of shadow. You have to have all your banking requisites and details. You don't have to have 3 private entrepreneurs in one selling point. We know about such cases. So taxation should be transparent. And taxation, of course, cashback only comes when you have paid through your banking system, only with non-cash transaction. This is the way to bring people to light and to have as few people as possible working in the shadow of the economy, because shadowing is a major issue in the Ukrainian economy. One of the effects or additional value that we will have is that we will see more selling transactions that will be open and legal. What is your sentiment towards bringing people out of shadow economics? What we are seeing is that you have to have a fiscal document. The transaction must be effected through the taxation system. You have to have a paying document that is part of the general taxation system, not when you have 2 private entrepreneurs that are actually working for one seller. Everybody has to pay their taxes. Everything must be paid for in a cashless way so that the cash doesn't change hands, because cash is a way to avoid taxation. You will have to join the cashless transactions, and accordingly you have to pay your taxes. I hope I have answered your question. Thank you, Ms. Deputy Minister. Do you have questions, ladies and gentlemen? Victoria Alexeyenko, Ukrinform. 3 questions, and I will put them in order. Since this is a government experiment, what are the parameters, the criteria for the success story. How do you know whether it has succeeded or failed? And what is the time frame for analyzing this success? Indeed, this is an experiment. The mechanisms are there. These things have not been regulated legally so far, how to regulate some areas. This is where government is able to test some approaches in piloting. The program will be functioning until 2022, which is by the end of the next year. And the criteria that we have founded this on is for the GDP to grow in a way that they're higher than the money spent on this experiment. Another issue, whether economic effect has been calculated. What share of GDP do you think you can count on? Yes, we have counted on that. In general, you will know that the whole program is part of the complex program made in Ukraine. This year, we thought all these initiatives will see a 1% growth of GDP due to the economic growth program. As for the cashback program, our prognosis is that we'll see 0.25 percentage points. It'll all be dependent on how active the population will join the program, how popular the program will be amongst the consumers. Another important issue is this: how can you comment yesterday's comment by Mr. Blyzniuk that the parliament will not approve of this drive because it has to be approved by the parliament? You know, I know this parliamentary for a long time, and I suggested that we have a talk about that. He has started commenting on the program prior to seeing the program per se. I haven't had the possibility to explain everything to him. His comments is something I cannot understand. We have an experiment now. It has been approved of. It'll be launched on the 2nd of September for the consumers. When he says it will not start, I don't know what he means. If you have questions, please raise your hands. In that case, I have a question to engage Ms. Yevheniia. We will go into sociology now. Are you aware of the share of emotional and reasonable options of the Ukrainian consumers? You underlined the point that the popularity of the national produce is something of a patriotic drive. Once the war is over, I hope, without victory, do you think there'll be a downhill road after victory has been secured? Now, I'm talking about emotional issue. How do you retain this popularity of the made in Ukraine things? This is a philosophical issue. Do we make irrational choices in our lives? Now, I am not positive in answering that. We are emotional creatures. We know about the major behavioral theory in economics. It is not coincidence that it has been nominated and received the Nobel Prize for economy. People are emotionally motivated, and then they try to rationalize their options. This is how our brain works. This is why marketing and advertising communications work, because they impact our emotional nature. As for the choice and opting for the Ukrainian produce, there is some specifics here. What we see is a combination of something of a rational calculation and emotional opting for the support of the Ukrainian produce. Rationally, price is a thing that matters. Ukrainians have been prioritizing Ukraine since before the war. For example, natural things that we talk about, nutrition. We know about public catering and other things that we liked Ukrainian high quality foods. Now, after the war, when we saw the disruption of importing lines, we saw that the sentiment was changing. Ukrainian medicines have always been popular and of high quality. I don't see any backlash in the popularity of the Ukrainian produce I don't see it taking place after the war is over. I echo every word that the sociologist says. We are all coming from the former Soviet Union, and we are all living in those mental traps, in spite of the fact that the Soviet Union is no more. And by definition, one of those traps is that imported goods are high quality only because they were not available during the Soviet times. And we all remember the 1990s where we saw Turkish sweets. Quality of those sweets, I leave that point behind, but they were very flashy and bright. Another issue is marketing. I strongly believe that marketing works, and Ukrainian brands don't have and don't enjoy the history vis-a-vis the foreign companies that have been building up the history for decades and centuries. They have a lot of expertise in promoting the produce. They have been popular for many, many years. It is a very good moment for the Ukrainian brands to grow in popularity, to have some emotional bond with the Ukrainian public. Later, what we will see is that more Ukrainian brands we have, the more Ukrainian brands will grow in popularity beyond Ukraine, and made in Ukraine will be well received elsewhere, because we have to have strong Ukrainian brands. We have strong brands in Italy and France. So we will have Ukrainian brand that will have a very strong popularity, and they will be reaping benefits from that. In answering your question whether there will be lessening in popularity, perhaps not. But the question is whether we will take advantage of the situation and we will do everything it takes for this country to grow and to respect ourselves and love ourselves. Let us take the best of this possibility. Thank you very much. As for the program per se, you mentioned that currently it's an experimental stage that we are living through. What will it take for this to be a stable program? What is the KPI of the project? The questions that have been raised today are all focusing on the issue of relations between demand and meeting that demand. The Ukrainian economy will grow and will become more sustainable. The value of this program will also help the GDP to grow. I would perhaps talk about scaling up. Such a program must be scaled up towards other state-run support programs. If we support some strata of population, the money should be targeted towards developing the domestic economy. It's a good thing to give away money, but what in the developed world, you focus on the development of your domestic economy. All the Ukrainians are now helping the Ukrainian defense forces, now military. Are we aware whether this cashback can be targeted towards military? What I was surprised when at the answers was that after the first thing people will spend the money on are the public utilities bills, and then they talk about helping the military. Perhaps these are people who are well off and they're ready to donate cash back for the Ukrainian military. The military bonds, we underline, of course, are also targeted towards helping Ukrainian army, because after the yield is available, of course, you will reap some benefit. But now the money that you have paid for the military bonds will be targeted towards military. Perhaps we have more questions while we have some minutes and time available. There are no more questions. In that case, I would like to appreciate our panelists. We've been talking about the Ukrainian consumer sentiment towards National Cashback Program. We will resume our functioning at 11 hour. We'll be talking about where the Russians expect the resurrection of Mr. Prigozhin. Stay with us.